Hey, Flosstube. I am Amy. I am the Globetrotting Stitcher, and I'm really happy to be back with you today. It has been a while. We have had a lot going on. You'll hear a little bit about that, but just to say, we have not filmed an update in a while, so we're really glad to be back with you. A little bit rough and ready today just because so much is going on, but I've got a lot of whips to share and a lot of news and updates. So looking forward to spending some time with you. If you're new here, welcome. I hope that you enjoy what we are doing and that you will hit the subscribe button and come hang out with us again. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Thanks so much for sharing a little bit of your time with us on a regular basis. We really appreciate it. So let me tell you a little bit about what we've been up to over the last couple of weeks. I think it's close to a month since we've had the time to record an update, which is hard to believe. So a couple of things that have been going on, both stitchy and non-stitchy related. As far as stitchy related, I found some time back at the end of August to start kitting up things for 2023. So those of you who are regulars here know that I have a pretty structured approach to my stitching and that I tend to plan things out pretty far in advance. And so I spent some time kind of pulling together all the materials, getting things in project bags, deciding what I wanted to do. And so I've got most of my projects for 2023 all kitted up and ready to go now. And I'm really excited. I'm going to be working on some beautiful things. And so I'm looking forward to sharing those with you as they start coming into the rotation. The other fun thing that happened around here is that I was able to get the house decorated for autumn. And so autumn is my favorite season and I absolutely love it. And although I tend to decorate seasonally for, in a small capacity for most of the seasons or holidays, the two big wins for me are autumn and Christmas. And so this house is looking very pumpkin-y and there's lots of orange happening around here. And Gary very kindly tolerates it, but I'm enjoying how pretty and warm and cozy it's looking now that all the autumn goods are up and out. The other big thing that has been a huge focus and that has really taken a lot of our time in the last couple of weeks is getting our deck finished. So many of you heard us talk last summer about what a big project it was. Our deck is split into 3 sections, and so it's just a ton of work to sand and stain it all by hand. And so last summer we spent a big chunk of time doing it. And then this summer we had another big section that had to get done. And so realistically, honestly, Gary did like probably 95% of the work that went into that. But we had a big push over the last couple of weeks because we've been running out of time to kind of beat the fall weather. And so we've kind of had to drop everything to really make that happen. But it is finally done, stained, washed, sanded. Actually, I said that in reverse order. We sanded first. Anyway, it's finally done. It looks really good. And we will not talk about how many conversations were had about setting it on fire as an alternative, but we held out. We did not set it on fire and it's done. It's looking good. And we definitely got it done in time to cure before the fall rains set in. So we're happy about that. The other thing which you'll hear more about at the end of the video is I was gone for a business trip to Rwanda. And so I have some really fun stories and photos and things to share from that trip. And I'm looking forward to telling you all about that. So with all of that having been said, let's get into the part that you're here for and that you're interested in, and that is the stitching. So I've got a couple of finishes to share with you to start. The first one is in my travel category. I have been stitching the charts or the designs out of the Christmas Cheer Pin Pillows chart by Jeanette Douglas Designs. That is an exclusive that is distributed by Off the Grid Needle Arts, Evertote. Sorry. It's distributed by Evertotes and it's exclusive through them. So that's where you would need to go to get it. And there are 6 charts or 6 designs in the chart. So I have been working on the Peace on Earth pin pillow, stitching on a piece of 36 count Stars Hollow Blend linen by R&R Reproductions using all of the called for floss. And sorry, I'm having a little problem with my screen here. So So the last time you saw this, I was maybe a third of the way done. I had stitched not quite half of the border. I had started stitching on the words peace on earth, and I had stitched part of one of the big snowflakes in the design. And so this time it's all finished. So this is what it looks like. I took this with me on my trip to Rwanda, so I had a lot of time in airports and on airplanes to work on it. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it's very pretty. So as you can see, border, all the words, the red snowflakes, and it's just a nice kind of vintagey feeling piece. And so I will be stitching this up into a pillow at some point in time. I don't know when I'm going to have time to get to that, but hopefully before Christmas this year, because I'd love to incorporate this in my holiday decor. But was really pleased to get that finished. And this was actually a lot of fun to be working on my trip, because when you stitch on a plane, there's always a lot of interest from the flight attendants and, oh, what you're doing, and oh, you're light, and and it's a nice little conversation starter with the different folks that you run into on your journey. So that's that one. And then the other piece that I finished, which feels like a million years ago, is Berries and Robins by Madame Chantilly. So as many of you know, I've been stitching through the 3 designs in the chart, and the first 2 I had already finished and shared with you, and this was the last one. And this one I call Birds on a Twig. This I stitched on a piece of 32 count French vanilla swirl Wexford linen using the called for DMC. And the last time you saw it, it was really close to a finish. I told you I knew I was going to get done. I had stitched 3 of the birds, most of the berries, most of the branch, and really just had a little bit left to do. And here it is, all finished. So you can see we've got all 4 of the chubby little robins here, all of the berries, and the white little, I guess they're berries, or I don't know what those are. But anyway, I think this is really sweet. I'm happy to be through working through my way through this chart. And I haven't really given a whole lot of thought yet to the final finishing, as far as I'm pretty sure I'm going to frame at least a couple of these, but haven't really started the search process yet. So we'll probably do that in the next couple of weeks. But I'm really pleased with this and glad to have it all done. Okay. So that's it for finishes. So now we are going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk to you about the whips that I've been working on over the last several weeks. So I'm going to share these just in the order I was able to pull them from, the whip pile, not in the order that I stitched them in. So the first piece I am going to share with you is Rose Trellis In by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is my full coverage piece that I'm working on, and I am stitching it on a piece of 28 count white Lugana, 2/1 using the half stitch. So the last time you saw this, I had hit a pretty significant milestone and passed the 50% mark on this design. So I am now over halfway done, which is really, really exciting for me. I had finished stitching the roof line of the house. I was almost finished with stitching the second window that's on the second floor of the house. And I had started stitching, there's 3 little potted evergreens that are on sort of an upstairs porch. And I had just started putting in some of the stitching on the third and final of those little potted trees. So here's where it is right now. So with this one sort of fell victim to the busy schedule. Some of the time I would have spent on this it fell during the end of my trip to Rwanda. So I lost a couple of days there. And then, as I was saying, we hit the deck pretty hard when I got home and spent as much of our free time as we could really working to get that done. So this didn't get quite as much love as I would have liked, but it's okay. I did make some good progress. So as you can see, I've finished this window over here and fully finished out all of the siding of the house here. I did get this all of the stitching done on the little potted evergreen here, and so I still have to do the little flowers that are at the base of that tree. And then I did a good bit of the fill-in over here in the background where it's just kind of trees and bushes. So yeah, it's coming on. I am really, really hoping, I think it's kind of reasonable to think that the next time this comes out, I don't want to jinx myself by saying it, but I'd like to think that I can finish this fill-in over here and move on to the next row of pages. I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that, but I like the way things tend to go. I don't want to actually commit to that and then have something come up and I won't be able to do it. But really enjoying this, and I'm definitely looking forward to finishing this row of pages and moving on to the next. So that's where we are on that. Ooh, yikes. Okay, the next piece I am going to share with you is Gary's piece. So I will pull this up while Gary gets ready to talk about it. He is stitching Captain America by Awesome Pattern Studio. That is an Etsy store that we will link below. And he is stitching this on 16 count pewter Aida using all of the called for flosses. So Gary, I will let you tell everybody about what you've been doing on this since the last time they saw it.
Well, I guess, sorry, it's just hard because I don't know. I had planned to start out by saying the last time you saw this, but Amy just said the last time you saw this. So I don't know what to say now. Anyway.
He stole his line.
Well, she stole my lead-in, not just my line. She stole my lead-in.
Sorry.
But at any rate, this is a very interesting piece. The last time you saw it, I was talking about how I would be done with page 3, but I'm not quite done with page 3. If you look at it now, you'll see that I did get quite a bit done. I only have a little bit of the gray left to put in on both sides of the shield, and then also I only need to finish the bottom part of the small circle in the shield. I think it has an A, or with the star on it. The spot. I got to put the bottom part on the star, and then page 3 is done. Fortunately, we don't have a deck to sand, so I'm pretty confident that that I'll be done with page 3 by the next time we see this. However, I promise, I make no promises on the other one that I was working on. I don't even remember its name, so I'm not going to get into it. But one thing I did want to say is that I bought a lighter just in case Amy and I did want to actually burn that thing. It was torturous. I never want to do that again.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's where I am on that one. I'm glad I am where I am because now I can see more and I feel like I'm doing something. Before it just seemed like this blotch of colors, but now it's it's got some form and some depth. Anyway, so that's where I am on that.
Do that again.
No, so that's where I am on that, and yeah.
All right. I'm just saying it's not too late to burn the deck down. All right, let's see here. The next whip I'm going to show you is my... You stop that. Next whip I'm going to show you is my Fancy Lady. So I have been working on Celtic Winter by Lavender and Lace Designs. I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count Haunted Belfast linen by Picture This Plus. And this chart, I am doing a pretty significant conversion on this. So the original design is the woman in her dress, and the color scheme is whites and golds with some plums in there. And as those of you who follow us on a regular basis know, what I'm doing is very different than that. So the last time you saw this, I had started, so the woman has silver swirls at the bottom, or she has metallic swirls at the bottom of her dress. Mine are silver and not gold. So she has these silver swirls, and I had started stitching that swirl pattern in. I was working my way down. There's a bunch of decorative beaded bands at the top of the design, and I was still working my way through those. And I was also working my way down the medallions that are on the left side, the border, the left side of the design, which are those are pretty intensive to stitch. I had also kind of stitched the top, the head of the woman. I was starting to stitch her bodice. and cloak, and was starting to stitch. One of the changes I made is in the original design, she's carrying a white fur muff. And in my conversion, she's holding, we swapped that out for an evergreen ring with candles. So here's where she is right now. And as you can see, I've made really, really good progress. So I've stitched all of the medallions. The only thing I have left to do is this one last half medallion here along the bottom. I have to do the beading on that. But once that's done, all of the medallions on this side are done. I've finished all of the banding up here, and I'm almost done with the letters that spell out winter. I've also started this smaller medallions down the right side of the design. And as you can see, I've made really good progress in the lady herself. So I'm now done with her evergreen ring here. And I've started really doing a lot of the fill-in on the cloak. I also chose to stitch the outline of the cloak here. And one of the things I had a good laugh with myself about is, for those of you that are fans of the Great British Bake Off, when I was stitching this, I was looking at this kind of swirl at the bottom of her cloak, and I was thinking that it looks like she's got a Swiss roll down there, and it's like a Swiss roll that would make Paul Hollywood weep for joy, because it's just like a nice tight roll. So anyway, that amused me a great deal. But so I'm making good progress on filling in her cloak. I'm also making good progress in stitching down and filling in her dress. And I've done quite a bit now of the silver swirl pattern at the bottom of her dress. There's just a little bit left to plug in here. So she's definitely coming along. I think she's so beautiful. And she just continues to feel really, really like a special piece. So it's a lot of fun working on her. I also want to mention the beautiful needle minder up here that Gary made for me. It's one of my favorites, and I think it works really nicely with this particular piece. All right. So that is Celtic Winter. Let's see here. Okay. The next WIP I have to share with you is my sampler. So I am working on Winter Rose Manor with Thy Needle and Thread. And I am stitching this, goodness, what am I stitching this on? I am stitching this on a piece of 36 count raw Edinburgh linen, using most of the called for flosses. I've made just one or two minor changes to this. So the last time you saw this, I had stitched all of the top and right side border, and I was almost finished with the bottom border. I had also stitched about half of the left side border, so I'd made good progress on the borders. I had stitched quite a bit of there's a bouquet of flowers in a basket on top of the house. I had stitched most of that, but I wasn't done. Had started stitching the roof and was starting to do the fill-in on the bottom level of the house. So this is a design, I took this with me to Rwanda, and this is where it is right now. So sorry, I've got a hanging thread here, but as you can see, I've made really good progress despite being quite busy on my trip. So I am now completely finished with the border, which always feels like a big accomplishment to me, and it met up, which is also a big accomplishment. I've completely finished now this basket and the flowers. I am all the way finished. I've stitched in all of the roof now, so that is a big accomplishment. Everything from it's like all the way done. This top half is completely finished now. I also finished filling in the whole bottom row of the house. So all the fill-in is done here. And all that's left to do is finish stitching in the curtains and the windows and the door. As you can see, I started stitching in the trees that run along the bottom here in the front of the house, and started stitching in the snow that surrounds those, as well as this fence over here and some of the little motifs on this side. So I don't know if I will get this finished the next time it comes out, because there's a lot of dense white stitching down here. But if it doesn't get finished, it'll be pretty close, because I'm really starting to close in on the end on this. This one has also, I found it just to be a really good piece for travel stitching, as far as if I have time in a hotel room. And so this has just been a great piece to take with me on several trips now. I think the last thing I want to mention before I move on to the next whip is that this particular piece I'm doing as a stitch along with Sarah. Her Instagram handle is Stitch Addict. And this is, I think, the third piece that we have done together as a stitch along. We've turned out to be really good stitch along partners. You're going to hear a little bit more about her in a few minutes. But if you would like to join us in our stitch along, whether you're already stitching this and want to jump in, or if you're thinking about starting it and want to jump in, our hashtag is Roses in Winter Sal, and we would love to have you join us. Okay, I just have 2 more whips to show you. So let's do this. I've got a little bit of a messy pile developing over here. So the next one I have to show you, it doesn't come out that often. It is my wild card piece, so it really only shows up when I have a finish in one of my other categories. This is Bush Market. It is by Hannah's Needlecraft, which is an Etsy store, and I will include a link below. I am stitching it on a piece of 32 count vintage country mocha linen. So the last time you saw this, I had hit a big milestone because I had finished all of the stitching in the tree. That's the big central part of the design. And had that was the big change that you saw the last time. And so let me show you where it is right now. So from a stitching perspective, it doesn't look a lot different, even though I did put quite a bit of time into this. As I was telling you last time, the one part of this chart that I haven't been fully satisfied with is the back stitching. It's not entirely clear from the way it's charted what's expected for back stitching. And so it seems to imply that on the tree that you would use sort of a green that is very much matching to the colors in the tree. And what I've found is, though I'd done quite a bit of the back stitch in the tree, it really was not adding any dimension or showing up at all. So a lot of the time I spent working on this the last time it came out was in ripping out quite a bit of that back stitch. There's still more to go, but I ran out of steam for ripping. But what I did was I did do quite a bit more back stitch on this side of the tree, so you can definitely see a lot of dimension emerging. I also, this little young gentleman who is running around at the market, he has feet now, which is good. And I've started stitching in some greens that are in a basket here underneath the tree. So I'm hoping this one will come out again a little bit more often in the next couple of months, and looking forward to working on it. But I'm enjoying how it's coming together. So that's Bush Market. And then the last whip that I will share with you is my weekend stitching. So this is Butterfly Port Mauve, and this is also a Heaven and Earth Designs chart. Let's see here. I am stitching it on a piece of 28 count easy grid Lugana 2/1 using the half stitch. So the last time you saw this, I was at about 6,100, 6,200 stitches, still working my way through page 1. And this is where I am right now. Whoops. So I have put in not quite 1,100 stitches. I am still working my way down through page 1 in the background here, but definitely getting close to the bottom of that page, probably a couple more weeks before it's really finished. But the exciting thing is I'm starting to get into territory where we'll have some actual elements of the design begin to emerge, and it won't be just strictly background. But yeah, so that's about 1,100 stitches of progress, and I am looking forward to continuing to work on this. It provides a little bit of a nice change of pace when I get to my weekend to switch gears a bit and give this one a little bit of love. So that is where I am on Butterfly Port Mauve. Okay, let's see. I have 2 new starts to share with you. So let me kind of get set up for that. The first one I'm going to show you is in my travel stitching category. And so as I had mentioned, when I was on my flight home from Rwanda, I finished the Peace on Earth pin pillow. And so I took a few minutes to look at that and appreciate it. And then I took my fabric out of the hoop, moved the hoop down, and started the next design in that chart, which is the Noel pin pillow. So this is being stitched on a piece of 36 count Stars Hollow Blend linen by R&R Reproductions. And those of you, so this is where I am right now. The eagle-eyed among you will notice very quickly that my border does not match up, and it doesn't match up in a really big way. So I was working on this. I don't know what happened. I do know what happened. I know where the mistake was made. But as I was finishing, as I was coming around the bottom and coming up, I was like, what the, how did I make that mistake? Usually my borders meet up. So the frog and I will be having a date to get this one fixed and back on track. But this is, I think, a pretty good start on this pin pillow. And we'll see where I am on this when I actually finish. But this one so far kind of feels like my favorite of the ones I've done to date. So this is the Noel pin pillow in that set of charts. All right, the last new start that I have to share with you is in my seasonal category, and this is Easter by the Cricket Collection. I am stitching on a piece of 36 count mocha linen by Color and Cotton, and I'm for the most part using the called for DMC. I've had to sub in a couple of things, but this is my start. So I've made good progress on this so far. I've stitched the E, A, and S, and I've started stitching on the T. I have finished one of the bunnies and started a second bunny, and I'm putting in some of these other little elements, the tulips and so on. So I'm really enjoying this. One of the things that has surprised me with this piece is that the fabric itself, it's got a very strong purplish cast to it, and I would not have expected that for a piece of fabric that's called mocha. I don't know if Color and Cotton Mocha always has that purple cast to it, or if this was just an off dye or kind of a one-off situation. Regardless, I think it's beautiful. I think it was perfect for this piece. And so this has been a really fun one to get started on. I will say that, like I said, I'm doing most of the called for DMC on this. I have made a couple of small changes where, because it is more of a muted pastel palette for spring, which is just beautiful. I've had a couple places where some of the called for are not standing out on my fabric, and so I've made a couple minor changes there. But for the most part, I'm just stitching this as called for and really, really enjoying it. So that is my start on Easter. All right, I am going to share some fantastic haul and stitchy kindness that have come in over the last couple of weeks. So we'll start with the haul, which I'm pretty excited about. This was completely enabled by Pam from Just Keep Stitching. She showed this on one of the recent videos she and Steph put out. I think it was late August, early September. And I saw it and I was immediately like, I need to have that. I need to have that right now. And that is the Wisdom Sampler by the Vermilion Stitchery. And this, I got it on eBay, which I believe Pam did as well. So it, I believe, is out of print, but I just thought it was so beautiful when Pam showed it, and I was just, I need to have it. So I have it. It's a great example of a Rhode Island style sampler, which I think is also really cool. And I just thought the colors were wonderful, and the design was so pretty. So I'm super excited I was able to get my hands on a copy of this. I don't have immediate plans to stitch it, but it will be showing up at some point in the future because I definitely want to do the stitching on this one. So thanks, Pam. Thanks, Pam. Which, side note, we met Pam and Steph, as many people did, at StitchCon this year. And when we came down the steps to do the registration desk and check-in, we came down and I saw them and I was just like, oh, it's you guys, because, you get a little bit like, and Pam's like, hi, Amy. And then I was like, I peed my pants a little bit because I was like, oh my goodness, she knows my name. So anyway, yeah, love Pam and love Steph. They're fantastic. So anyway, with that, I'm going to move on to the Stitchy Kindness. And this Stitchy Kindness is really, really special. This, and not only for what it is, but for when it arrived. It arrived when it was a really tough day. We'd had a terrible day with the deck, and this arrived in the mail, and it just lifted my spirits in such a badly needed way. But those of you who watch us regularly often hear me talk about Sarah, my friend Sarah. She's Stitch Addict. And Sarah and I have done several stitch alongs together now. She has sent us Stitchy Kindness in the past. all the way from New Zealand, no less, which is one of our favorite places to visit. And so Sarah and I both enjoy stitching mirabilias, among other things. And she had stitched this design quite a few years ago. And that is Rose of Sharon, which is very much out of print, very hard to get your hands on. So I personally don't have a lot of unicorn charts. Unicorns meaning a chart that, is really hard to get your hands on and it's out of print and just very hard to track down, very expensive to track down. This is one of my unicorns. And I had told Sarah that that I'd kind of given up on the idea of ever actually getting my hands on this and being able to stitch it because it is so hard to run across and to find. But, this is a chart that, I saw this when it was still in print. I must have picked it up a dozen times at my local stitching shops. So I had plenty of chances to purchase it when it was still readily available. And I don't know why I never did. I loved it from the moment I saw it. Heaven knows I picked up plenty of other charts in those years. And so I don't know why I never actually purchased this one, but I didn't. And then once it went out of print, I was like, but I really wanted that. So Sarah very kindly sent me her old copy of Rose of Sharon, which she has already stitched. And I still can't quite believe that it's in my hands and that I'm going to get to stitch this because I love this design so much. I am probably not going to stitch this in the immediate future just because I've already kitted up my mirabilia for next year. But the year after that, this is happening. And I've already started thinking about what kind of fabric I want to put it on. So stay tuned because this is going to be stitched on this channel sometime in the next couple of years. And I am so excited for it. So Sarah sent this along with some wonderful New Zealand chocolates, which we have been trying to ration out with moderate success because they're delicious, and some beautiful wine charms and a beautiful card. So thank you, Sarah. Your kindness just continues, and your friendship just continues to be really special to both Gary and to me, and we really appreciate you and this beautiful gift. So thank you so much. Okay. We've had a couple of questions that have come in recent videos that are for Gary. So Gary, I'm going to pass those along to you. So the first one came from Gail, and Gail said, has Gary considered doing any of the Looney Tunes charts? I think he does great. I keep trying to get my husband to try cross-stitching. How did you talk Gary into trying it? So Gary, I'll let you respond to that.
Well, I knew this question was coming, so I didn't prepare. I guess because I just didn't prepare. When we were at StitchCon 2020, was it 2020?
It was 2022.
2022. That's right. 2020, nobody was going anywhere.
No.
We'd go to the bathroom. Anyway, what were we talking about? What now?
The Looney Tunes chart.
Okay, Looney Tunes chart, yeah. I actually went up, there's a big table with a bunch of charts. I guess people are like, I'm not doing this. And they put it on the table, and you can go through and take from those. I have a book of Looney Tunes charts, and I wanted to do Pepe Le Pew, probably just the skunk, but there's also a Taz and a couple of other things in there. So I was thinking what I'll do is I'll take like the 4 I want to do and take pictures of those and post them in our next video. And even if there's only one vote, whichever one wins the most number of votes, even if by one, I'll just do that one. And it could be Tweety, could be Sylvester, I don't know. But we'll see. So that's that question. And thank you, Gail, for asking. I live for this.
Do you want to respond to this question about did I talk you into trying cross stitch?
No, I do not. No.
All right, then I'll respond to that question. Simply to say that I did not talk Gary into trying cross stitch. And this is something I wanted to speak to just because I would say there's almost one person on every video who talks about how much they wish their partner would try cross stitch or enjoyed it as much as they do. And they want to know why, how I got Gary to stitch. I didn't. I think Gary was interested. You got into it because you wanted to make something for your son, and then that kind of came into making something for me, and then you've stitched several pieces now, and so Gary has always, in the entire time I've known him, he's always done like detailed kinds of hobbies with his hands. So he's built models all his life. He's made jewelry. He's painted models.
I have little miniature war models.
Yes.
War models.
War models.
It's not right, but they're war models.
So I think this was it kind of fit naturally in kind of some of the other things that he likes to do as hobbies. I do think I wish that husbands knew or partners knew just how much the stitching part of the relationship, or the stitching partner in the relationship, wish that was something that they shared, because I think that if they would try it, they would enjoy it. And it would give a lot of my viewers joy if their partners joined them. But unfortunately,
oh wait, now to other people's defense, as you pointed out, I'm very comfortable in working with really small things, and I'll put up pictures to show some of the models that I've worked on. But if that's really not your thing, it's not your thing, right? So it's all good from my perspective, right? Because she doesn't play war games and she doesn't build war models. So there you go, right?
Yeah, this is true. And I think there was no magic sauce to getting Gary to stitch.
I'm just curious and a bit crazy.
There you have it, folks. Okay, next question comes from Rebecca, and Rebecca is one of our regular commenters and viewers. So Rebecca asked, question for Gary: how many superheroes are there, and what is the percentage of women versus men versus other creatures? I love seeing your tableau.
I'm gonna take a risk here and assume you're talking about action figures that I have. If we're gonna look at action figures as a whole, I can tell you that I have way more women characters than probably most folks do, but that's only because I was able to collect them when they made them. For a long time, they didn't make them. But right now, still, when you see like a release of a movie or a release of some product line in terms of figures, I'm not going to give any names, but they'll often have maybe one or two females now. But in the past, you'd see a line where there were no females. Or if there was one female, there really wasn't a whole lot to the actual figure itself. So if we go by literally right now, today's standards, I'd say that maybe it's about 30% females in terms of the market figures. And that's like all of the figures, right? And maybe 70% male. But again, I can tell you when I was growing up, you just didn't have female characters. They just didn't exist. So there's that. In terms of what I have, I kind of buy what catches my eye. Like I've got this one figure from a movie, from the Deadpool movie, Deadpool 2, Domino, and I got her specifically because if you look at her features, she actually looks like a human being. Well, obviously she's not, but she's got really pronounced features, and you got to get that. If you're a figure collector, you got to get that one. Anyway, so that's how I see action figure collecting. Other people see it as they just want to collect teams. So if there's no woman on that team, they won't do it. But in terms of the availability of female action figures, it's better now than it has ever been in history. In the history of me collecting action figures, which started back in the 70s with the original G.I. Joes and stuff like that. Most of those are gone, but I started with those. I think I said too much, but I hope that answered your question.
All right. So this kind of wraps it up for the stitching part of the video. So if you're not interested in hearing about my trip to Rwanda, this is probably a great stopping off point. Thank you for coming to spend time with us. If you want to stick around for if you want to stick around for a couple of minutes, I will try to be brief and consolidate a little bit in sharing about the trip. And I took a lot of photos and video, and so I'm going to leave it up to Gary to kind of plug in things where it makes sense, and hopefully there's some stuff that's usable from what I took, because I am not the professional here. Gary is the one who is the professional. But just some reflections on my visit to Rwanda. So Rwanda this was my first trip there since 2017. I've been several times now. although it's not a country I visit regularly. But it is a really special place to me for a lot of reasons. One, it's just a beautiful, beautiful country. It is known as, the tagline for Rwanda is the land of 1,000 hills, and that is aptly named. They should actually probably call it the land of 1,000 mountains, because it's very mountainous, very hilly, lots of steep inclines. And one of the things that's really striking about Rwanda is that, similar to what China has done in their farming regions where they have really steep hillsides, Rwanda back in, I think, the 50s introduced terracing into a lot of their landscapes because they wouldn't have had very much usable farmland without it. And so one of the things that's fascinating when you get out of the city, the capital city, and into the more rural areas and into the villages, is these very mountainous areas, very steep hillsides, and people really don't have a lot. I mean, it's outside of cities. It's not common to have a vehicle or to have a car. So if you've got a motorized vehicle at all, better off families might have a motorbike. But most families, their transportation is the old-fashioned bicycle, and they've outfitted them. You've got your bicycle up front, and then they've outfitted them with like a long, thin, padded seat in the back. And so they'll use that either for the transportation for the whole family, where the wife will sit on that seat and she'll hold the kids or kids on her lap. Or they'll use it for transportation. So one of the things that was really common on the roads in the trip is to see somebody riding their bike, and they'll have a big chunk of like bananas that they're taking to the local market. And I'm not talking about like, the little banana, 5 or 6 bananas that you find at the grocery store. I'm talking like, mounds of heavy bananas that they're taking to their local market, or milk cans that are full from the morning milking. I saw one motorbike. I wasn't able to get a picture because we were moving, but this guy had like chickens all around, like tied onto his bike. And I was like, oh my goodness. And, when you think about the fact that if I'm riding up a hill on a bike, which doesn't happen, but if I would have a hard enough time like going uphill on a bike, just getting myself up a hill. But these folks, like, the fitness is amazing, because you'll just see folks and it's like one guy who's pedaling the bike and he's going up a steep hill and he's got heavy stuff or other humans on the back of his bike. And this is just normal for them. You'll also see, households, not, the terraced hillsides. They've got, fields or farms. So you've got, like your banana trees or your maize or your whatever that they're growing on the hillside. And so they farm on the hillsides, but they also have their actual farmhouses on the hillsides on little dirt paths. And sometimes, you're way up, you've got houses way up at the top of a mountain, and those folks are there if they want to go get water, if they need to go into the local village, if they want to go visit a neighboring farm, they got to come down the mountain on foot or kind of bring their bike down and go where they're going. I mean, we're talking calves of steel, people. I was just amazed. If I tried to farm in those conditions, I would roll down the hill and break my neck, because these are steep hills. So it was just, for me, it was really, really interesting to see, to get outside the city and see that part of Rwanda, because I hadn't had that opportunity before. So let's see, one of the other things I wanted to tell you about, just as far as where I was, I went into the eastern and northern provinces. So in the eastern province, they grow a lot of maize. And so while I was there, I got to visit a maize processing plant. So, all the way from, they bring the maize or the corn cobs in, and, they go through the whole process of cleaning and drying and getting those ready and turning them into seed. And then bagging that up and then getting it back out to farmers to grow more maize in their fields. And then in the northern province, they grow a lot of banana and a lot of potatoes, both sweet potatoes and they call them Irish potatoes. We call them, like russet potatoes. But so they grow a lot of that there. But their bananas are not like the bananas that we are familiar with here, like in the United States or, the global north more generally. when we think of banana, we typically think of what they call a dessert banana, or we call it a Cavendish, and it's a sweet banana. But down there, although they do grow some dessert banana, most of what they eat is called cooking banana or matoke. It's essentially plantain, but it's a savory instead of a sweet. And they grow a ton of those in Rwanda. It's one of the things that they're known for. And then, as I said, sweet potatoes. So one of the other things that I got to do in the northern province was visit a couple different seed production facilities, where one was a hydroponics facility that was really cutting edge. Hydroponics is really hard to do and really hard to do it well. And this place had it locked down. I mean, it was really impressive what they were doing, and getting to see the sweet potatoes growing in a hydroponic kind of facility was really fascinating. And then also went out to a field where they were multiplying Irish potato for seed as well. And what was really neat about that is that area is particularly mountainous. It's where, so one of the things that Rwanda is known for is its gorilla population. It's one of the more popular places for tourists to go if they want to hike into the mountains and see the gorillas. And so we didn't do that, but we were surrounded by the mountains where the gorillas live. And so it was a really beautiful environment. And so we got to kind of go through this field and see the different stages of development, you know, women working in the field, kind of getting it ready for the next planting. And then on another part of the field, you've got some of the potato plants were in flower. And so our host was a lovely man. And it was very sweet because he saw me admiring the different potato blossoms, because some of them were in flower. And so he picked a couple of the little cuttings of potato flowers for me and gave them to me. So I got a picture of him giving me those. It was very sweet. But that was a really fascinating and interesting thing to get to go and see. And then one of the other things that was really fun as we kind of wrapped up our actual work-related field visits, because we were in the area, we got to visit the site where they do the gorilla naming ceremony every year. So every year this community does, they do a baby naming ceremony for all the new baby gorillas that have been born. Obviously, they don't bring the gorillas in, they don't take them out of their natural habitat, but the community has a big celebration, and they've created these big gorillas that they've overlaid with, I'm not sure if it's dried banana leaf or, you know, whatever it is that they're using. They were refreshing that and getting ready for the big ceremony that was coming up. And so we got to visit that site and take some pictures there. So that was really fun. But Rwanda is it's a very special and unique place in Africa. One of the things that people, and that many of you may recall about Rwanda, is the genocide that happened in 1994. I remember hearing about it on the news when I was in high school, and I've had the opportunity, not on this visit, but on prior visits, to visit one of the genocide memorials. So Rwanda is really unique in that they, rather than kind of sweeping under the rug what happened there, they've really made it a focal point nationally to ensure something like that never happens there again. And so if you haven't had a chance to learn about it, I would encourage you to. It's really powerful. It's really moving. Their estimates vary from, within a 100-day period, there's estimated between 500,000 and 1 million people were killed, mostly by their own neighbors, in some cases family members, and in some cases military. But just what the country has done to kind of rebuild itself and heal itself, and try to tackle head on what happened there, is really inspiring. And while I don't necessarily always agree with some of the political choices and whatnot, Rwanda's journey is really, really inspiring. And, they're really doing a lot. They stand out within sub-Saharan Africa for what's happening there on a lot of levels. So enough of that. But it was a really wonderful trip, and I hope that you've enjoyed the pictures as Gary has shown them. So we're going to wrap it up for today. I'm going to quickly tell you what we're going to be working on over the next couple of weeks. I am going to spend some time working on my Easter by Cricket collection and see how much farther I can take that. I'm also going to pull out Rose Trellis in and see if I can't finish that third row of pages, fingers crossed. And Gary is going to be pushing to finish the page that he's working on with Captain America. Just given Gary's got some travel in October and then I have some travel, so we may have another big gap before we're able to film again. We'll do the best we can. But we are looking forward to seeing you again soon. So if you're not already a subscriber, we do hope you'll hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you get notifications when we put up a new update. We always enjoy your comments and interacting with you, so please keep them coming. And if you would like, please do give us a thumbs up because it does help us get a little bit more visibility due to YouTube's algorithm. So thank you again for spending time with us. Feel free to follow me between videos on Instagram. I'm globetrotting_Stitcher, and you can send me emails at globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. So thank you for everything. We hope you're enjoying your stitching. We hope you're safe and well, and we look forward to seeing you relatively soon. Take care. Bye-bye.